Hello and welcome back to Cruising Calypso. On this week's episode we're going to talk about how to choose a battery for your boat. If you recall, last week we took a look at the 5 batteries that came off of Calypso II, and as you remember, only one of them was able to be recovered. 4 of them were unsavable. 1 was able to be recharged, and we're going to use that for the genset. So stay tuned. And remember, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment. We love to hear from all of our viewers about what types of things you like to hear. So let's get into it. So we're going to talk about 4 main areas. We're going to talk about battery chemistry, battery use, the size and group of the battery, and its capacity. So let's start with battery chemistry. What we're talking about today are 2 main chemistries. Lithium, also known as lithium ion, lithium potassium, which is the new kid on the block, and the traditional lead acid. Now, lead acid has 3 basic makeups. It comes in the traditional flooded cell, AGM, and gel. The advantage of a lead acid battery is that it's one of the least expensive of the types of batteries. They typically last about 3 to 5 years, and however they do require you to top off the electrolyte with distilled water periodically. About once or twice a season you want to make sure the electrolyte doesn't get too low. Now, AGM batteries on the other hand are more expensive, probably about twice as expensive for the same given size of battery than a typical flooded cell battery. But AGM is a sealed battery, so it requires no maintenance, and the advantage of AGM is that it tends to discharge slower, it can recharge faster, and when you leave the battery for an extended period of time, its discharge rate is very, very slow. In fact, an AGM battery over a winter that starts off fully charged is only going to lose about 2 or 3% of its charge versus a traditional flooded battery. Now, all of these battery types require a charger that has a specific setting for that battery type, often referred to as a smart charger. Smart charger will assess the kind of battery you have and will apply the right amount of charge during the charging sequence. So it's best to have an up-to-date charger if you're going to be updating your batteries at the same time. And then the third type of lead acid battery is the gel battery. Gel batteries were more common a number of years ago. They are also a sealed battery, but as AGM batteries have come along, the gel battery has just fallen out of popularity, and so it's the most expensive, largely because it is not produced that much. But if you find them, they are good batteries, they're just expensive, and they have no real advantages over an AGM. Now, the lithium battery, as we mentioned, as a type of chemistry, has a lot of advantages. It's a lightweight battery, and it's very powerful. For a typical battery, if a group 31 lead acid battery weighs about 67 pounds, a lithium battery is going to weigh about, of the same capacity, is going to weigh about 25 pounds. Huge advantage there. The other thing is a lead acid battery is typically only capable of discharging down to about 50% of its capacity. So for a given capacity, let's say a 100 amp hour battery, you really only have 50 amps available. Going below that 50% mark is going to damage the battery and reduce its life. And in fact, if you bring a battery down to 0, more than once, you're likely to damage it permanently and shorten its life considerably. A lithium battery itself, however, can be run down to 25% or even 0 with no damage. Now, here's the thing. Lithium batteries are super expensive and they require a fairly sophisticated setup. A lithium battery, a group 31 lithium battery, probably is going to run you about $1,000 these days. Maybe you might get it a little bit cheaper, maybe $700, $800, something like that. But a lithium battery is quite expensive. It also requires a fairly sophisticated charger and fairly sophisticated voltage controllers. So there are a lot of advantages to going with lithium, but it is a big expense, and typically you see it on larger boats who want larger capacity. So let's touch on capacity a little bit. What we're talking about here are your typical 12-volt batteries. For long-distance cruisers and people with large house banks, it's not uncommon for people to wire in series a group of 6-volt golf cart batteries. So they put out 12 or even 24 volts, and they'll put 6, 8, 12 batteries together. They're often referred to as 4D or 8D size batteries. They're large, they're heavy, they have a lot of reserve capacity, but they're really only appropriate for a large, often displacement style boat that can handle the weight of those batteries. So what we're talking about here is your typical 12-volt battery that you might see in your car, but in this case you're talking about it in your boat. So let's get into how you're going to use the battery. A battery can be used for starting the boat, it can be used for your house bank, or it can be used for both. Now, a battery can also be used for a trolling motor if you do a lot of fishing, and that would be more akin to a house-type battery. So when you think about the types of batteries, and you're looking for a battery for a particular use, put house and trolling in the same group, and starting and mixed in another group. So let's talk about starting. A starting battery is designed to deliver a lot of amps very quickly to turn over an engine. It is not made for a continuous steady draw down. Likewise, a house battery or a deep cycle battery is not designed to have that instant push of power to turn the engine over. It is more designed to give a steady draw out to run the hotel load from your home or boat, excuse me. Similar to a trolling motor, you don't need big power right away, but you need a continuous steady run. So that's why a typical deep cycle is more appropriate for a trolling motor. However, they do make dual purpose batteries, right? So a dual purpose battery has some of the attributes of a starting battery and some of the attributes of a house bank. It can deliver the punch you need to turn the engine over, but it can also manage to deliver a steady stream of power to handle the hotel load. That is one of the more common battery types people use. However, if you have a small boat with an outboard motor on it and you're running maybe a fish finder and in a bilge pump, a single starting battery will be all you need. If you have a boat that has some hotel load, you might want to mix, right? If your hotel load is strictly confined to a specific battery, then you could have one deep cycle and one starting battery. And the thing you have to remember is on your boat, let's say you have a fishing boat, a center console. Your hotel load doesn't have to be lights and domestic things. If you're running a lot of electronics continuously, they draw a significant amount of power over an extended period. So if you have fish finders, chart plotters, radar, and other types of electronics, you have to consider those part of your hotel load and factor that into your overall battery needs. Now on Calypso II, our situation is we have 2 batteries to start each engine. However, on the port side, those batteries just do that. They start the engines. On the starboard side, they also function as the hotel load. Then we have a 5th battery that's independent that starts the generator. So as a result, we need sort of a mixed set of batteries on the boat. But rather than buying, let's say, 2 starting batteries on the port side and 2 mixed batteries on the starboard side, what we'll do is we'll buy 4 of the same kind of batteries, and they'll be dual purpose batteries. Now, let's talk about the size and the group. Often you'll see batteries referred to as group 24, group 27, group 31. This dictates the physical size of the battery, but in doing so it also talks about the capacity of the battery, right? The battery is rated in both cold cranking amps, marine cranking amps, and then total amp capacity. The MCA and the CCA are important for starting. The total amp hour capacity is important for deep cycle and hotel load. So the difference between CCA and MCA is cold cranking amps are the capacity at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. MCA, marine cranking amps, is the capacity at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I don't know about you, but most of us operate our boats at well above both of those temperatures. So they tend to be rated somewhat more conservatively. The reason they're rated that way is for a car, you need to know that when in the middle of the winter, like it is, well, not quite the middle of winter here in New England, but in the middle of the winter, when it's 18 or 20 degrees out, that your battery will have the ability to start your motor no problem, time and time again. So that's why you have that temperature rating on the battery. For boats, as I say, the rating tends to be more conservative. So what you need to do is check with your boat engine manufacturer to see how many cranking amps the engine needs. For us, in the case of, we have the Caterpillar 3126 diesel engines, they require 1,000 marine cranking amps to turn them over. So typically no one battery has that, so we put two batteries in parallel to turn them over. And so if we get group 31, for example, those tend to have about 700 marine cranking amps, so we could put two together, 1,400 cranking amps, plenty of power to start the engines. We could get a pair of group 27s. 27s are about 550 to 600, so much closer in parallel. Now you're talking just over 1,000 combined marine cranking amps. There is a difference in price between a group 27 and group 31, so it really comes down to your budget and what you want to do. I think what we're going to do is get 4 AGM batteries, group 31, and we're going to use the remaining 1 wet cell battery that was recoverable from the existing set for the generator. So we'll have 4 batteries, 2 for the starboard, 2 for the port, brand new, 1 flooded battery for the generator. And because the generator battery is not charged from the charger, it's charged by the generator itself, we can use an AGM setting on our smart charger to charge 4 of the same batteries. So I think we're going to leave it there and take a look. And as I said, Ed, I posted this information on a blog on the website. I'll put the link down below. And I hope you enjoy this kind of content. And if you did, please come back and have a great holiday, and we'll see you next year.